All right. So here we go. We'll go ahead and walk through this. Some of this will be a recap, but since we're getting ready to start the project, it's good to kind of go over these things. And then I'm going to go over an outline of exactly where we are with the project, what the funding looks like. I just want to say this portion, we are recording this because our plan is going to be to go back and edit it out, pull this portion of the meeting out so that we can post it on the website because we're keeping our projects page updated. You know, the goal being extremely transparent and to get all the information out into the community. So if you have questions that are, you feel free to ask them, but if not, I'll go to the end of this presentation and then we'll do a Q&A. And then any Q&A, we'll package that up, type it up, and put it online as well. So the goal is to communicate and to have everybody have a clear understanding of what's going on here. So again, Eastern Airport Modernization Program, our primary goal is to improve the runway safety area. That's going to shift the runway 422 1,900 feet southwest of the current location. We're going to discontinue the use of 1,000 feet of the north end of the runway. That's the area closest to the highway, Route 50. And we will establish 1,000 feet of safety areas on both ends of runway 422. Again, this is a safety-driven project. That is the primary goal of what we're doing here. This is going to bring the airfield into compliance with modern design standards. What I always tell people, it's like we're driving a 1950s model airfield, and nobody's driving 1950s models cars around every day. So we're bringing things into modern standards, modern geometry, modern systems, all throughout the airfield. We are going to maximize the efficiency by integrating as much innovative technology as possible. We are going to make significant enhancements to the environment as we do this. And of course, this project is going to ensure the future of aviation in Talbot County for the next 80 years. Okay, so this is where we are, current status. We're 2023 Q4. We actually have our pre-construction meeting today at 12:30 with our contractors. The town's coming, Easton Utilities is coming. Basically, all the players are going to be here today. The county is going to be represented, obviously, with multiple departments. So that's 12:30 today. We'll start to get into the real details of the project. I already know that the contractor has been working on a schedule. So we will have a schedule very shortly of exactly what's going to happen and when it's going to happen, when we'll have runway closures, when we'll see things happen. AECOM has been issued their notice to proceed to begin project management and construction oversight. That's already started. I want to thank Jen for being here. Jen's worked on this project for since the beginning and deserves a lot of credit for getting us here where we are. And Derek is he had to battle some traffic at the Bay Bridge, but Derek is on his way, and he had a lot of effort into designing this program. So he'll be here to answer any questions you may have later on today. Atlantic Contracting has executed the work performance agreement, and they're developing the detailed construction schedule. That's Atlantic is who will be here today at 12:30. They are the prime contractor, and they're the ones that are organizing the subs in the various areas. The first visual thing that you're going to see is the 10-foot security and containment fencing is going to be installed around the former Black and Decker site, the Talbot County Business Center. That's a requirement twofold, not only for maintaining the security of the airfield, that integrity has to be maintained, but also it's going to serve as containment it defines the work area, and MDE requires it to be in place before we can disturb the soil as well. So it's kind of like serving a twofold thing. So the first thing you'll see is fencing go up, and you'll see the parking lots start to be removed. Basically, I would say all the external pavements, as you're looking in that picture right here, you can kind of, basically all the external parking lots and loading docks all the way around the building will be the first thing impacted. And that's going to be removed for two reasons. One, it has to go. And two, it's going to serve as starting to build the service roads that we're going to put on existing airport property. Just a note on the service roads, the primary reason we're putting the service roads in is this is a long project. It's going to take, 5 to 7 years to get it all done. putting in the service roads are going to allow construction equipment to move easily between the Black & Decker site and the existing airfield. So just looking at this photo we have here, there's going to be service roads that are going to run along the west side, and that you'll be able to come all the way around the operation and get to the stockpile over here by the shop. And then there's going to be a service road that goes on the east side and come out here to get to the borrow area up here on the very north end. And eventually it'll tie into the terminal ramp. So what this does is once the service roads are installed, construction vehicles and airport operations will be able to move the entirety 360 around our property without interrupting the operation. And that's a big deal. I can see Scott sitting here. We won't have to call the tower for crossings. So when these service roads are put in, they'll be outside the safety area, and we'll be able to move construction equipment and vehicles all around the property and stay outside the safety areas. So this is going to pay huge dividends during construction, but also for the future of our operation. You know, we'll be able to get mowers out there and mow without having to call the tower across the airfield. This was also part of our thoughtfulness to the surrounding community to keep construction equipment off of our state roads and our county roads and our town roads. So to the extent that we can, the trucks are going to move around on the 602 acres that we have here and minimize the amount of trucks going out onto the other roadways. So that'll not put as much wear and tear on that infrastructure. 2024 Q1, you'll see the mass earthwork to begin in January. And just while we have this photo up, and you can see it very clearly. So the mass earthwork is essentially going to move soil from the borrow site by maintenance, and from the big north end borrow site. It's going to start to transition all that soil down here to build this area up. The estimation is about 400,000 cubic yards that's going to be brought down here. So it's a lot of earth to be moved. If it was being moved in individual dump trucks, it's about 40,000 dump trucks worth of soil that needs to be moved. Also in Q1 of 2024, we're going to start working on, well, we've already started on it, but we're going to go out to bid for construction package 2. Construction package 2 is the full demo of the Talbot County Business Center. So that'll be out to bid probably by the March timeframe. And that work will begin no earlier than this time next year. More likely it'll happen in January of 2025. So the big thing to know is by the first quarter of 24 is when we're going to start to see significant airfield impacts. All right, I put this in here in calendar years just so it's easier to understand. Believe me, it's always challenging for me because I straddle different funding buckets in different fiscal years, because we have the county fiscal year that runs July 1 to June 30th. We have the federal fiscal year in September, which is out of sync with the county and the state, and then we and we're using multiple grant programs to fund all this. So like right now we're pulling out of 4 buckets, AI, 2 different AIPs, a bipartisan infrastructure law, the state grant program, and our own funding. So we have like 5 funding streams across multiple years. So the easiest way to present it to the public is talk about a calendar year. So package 1, calendar year 24, like we just said, security and containment fencing at the business center, demolish external parking lots, prep the building for demo, which is another whole thing that we'll be working on this winter. Buildings can't just come down. We have to get in there and turn things off, pull systems. We need to do our due diligence to recycle, sell, get as much value out of that building. The sheriff's office is still located there until June at the latest. Service roads that we talked about, mass earthwork grading, and drainage. What package 2 looks like, 2025, is the actual demolition of the Talbot County Business Center, relocate the utilities, and finish that site grading. So by the end of 2025, that's what we're going to be looking like. The business center will be gone. The site will be fully graded. That sets us up for package 3 and 4. I will say these first 2 years, we have a very good idea of what's going to happen. So package 1, package 2 through 25, we have a very good confidence of what's going to happen. We've had conversations with FAA. We had conversations last week with FAA, talk about funding and funding commitments. So we know we feel very good through 25. Jen, Derek, and I, we have a meeting today to start talking about what does 26, 27 look like, start to strategize. So there's a lot of moving parts. You know, there's a lot of moving parts with pavement having to be prepped for 1533 is going to be, you know, it needs some care before the operation shipped over there. So there's a lot of things that need to be thought about. But what 26 and 27 look like, hey, good morning, Derek, is that's when we're actually going to pave that 1,900 feet that will have prepped in the earthwork of runway 4. The taxiway Alpha and the connecting taxiways will be paved. We'll install the new visual landing aids, the MALZEF, the PAPIs, the reels, and the new ILS. So that's what we're looking at in that 26, 27 timeframe. And then looking slightly beyond that, 28, 29 is when we'll go back and we'll remove the 1,000 feet on the north end of runway 22, construction of the new taxiway connectors to the 22N and thresholds. So that's the basic overview. Everybody always wants to know, when are we going to use the new runway? And the crystal ball starting to come into a little bit of focus. I'm thinking a best case scenario with everything just lines up and the FAA is just, you know, just keeping that money flowing, fall of 26 at the earliest. I think a more realistic scenario is probably by the end of 27. That's allowing us time and some flexibility with financing. And, you know, the reality is with a construction project like this, you know, there's going to be some issues as we get into, you know, year 2, year 3, you know, that we may have to massage out. But if I had to give you an estimate right now today, I'm thinking fall of 27 is a realistic scenario, if everything, you know, barring any major surprises from our partners at the federal government. And this graphic right here is just a kind of just a generalization of what the new airfield, kind of, you know, this is basically what it's going to look like in the end with the new drainage improvements. The former the Talbot County Business Center is removed, visual aids installed off the approach end. You can see here the 1,900-foot shift for runway forward, parallel taxiway Alpha, the connecting taxiways, and it also shows here the 1,000 feet removed off of the north end. And I also have this graphic back here if you want to take a closer look at it at the end. All right, funding overview, very transparent. How are we paying for all this? The primary funding mechanism is the AIP grant program. Of course, the Airport and Airways Trust Fund provides the primary source of funding. The revenue that's received into this program is a variety of excise taxes and fees that are paid by users of the National Airspace System. That's always something that we like to point out. These are not appropriated monies by Congress. These are fees that are paid by the users of the system. So basically, when you use the National Airspace System in any way, shape, or form, even when you fly commercially, a small percentage of that goes into this trust fund, and that's how we pay for improvements at all the airports throughout the country. So 90% of this program is going to be paid for through that trust fund. And then under the AIP, our entitlements under the bipartisan infrastructure law is now $763,000 annually. So that is part of what Congress passed a couple years ago to improve infrastructure around the country. So we get $763,000 annually here at Easton to put towards this project. I will note that we have saved the first 2 years of our 763, and we're pulling from next year. So basically, we're taking 3 years worth of Bill AIG in package 1. So that's how we're kind of pulling all that together. The MAA, which is our state partners, they generally fund 5%, but they're limited to hard costs only, so they don't pay for design, things of that nature. They only pay for construction, but it's essentially 5%. And then Easton Airport will pay the remaining 5%. This is our highest budget priority. It will be our highest budget priority until the contract is complete. And just a reminder that we have been a self-sustaining enterprise here in Talbot County for over 30 years. So we do not receive any taxpayer funding here at the airport. We pay our own way, and every dollar of profit is invested directly back into the airport through projects like this. All right, total cost, construction package one. We're actually doing a lot to begin with. This is a very expensive phase one. Subsequent phase, probably the next package will not be this expensive. But like I said, we've pulled some the bill AIG monies in for 3 years. Total cost a little under 11.2 million. We have already executed 2 AIP grants, one for a little over 7 million, one for 383,000. So we've about 7.7 million has been executed already with the federal government. Infrastructure law, again, we have 2.3 million coming from FAA, and the MAA has already made a commitment to for that 5%. So we got about 2.5 million that is on the way, and it'll be here before the end of the fiscal year. So the local share of package one is $596,608, of which we anticipated and we budgeted 638,789 in our current fiscal year. So we're actually all right. If it falls off, Jeff, it's okay. Just a couple things to note. We'll start with the safety, the major focus on the safety upgrades that are going to occur. Approximately 80% of the airfield is going to get reconstructed next 6 to 8 years. 1,000-foot safety areas on the end of the runway. There's going to be a new ILS system installed with natural gas powered backup. There's going to be obviously new GPS approaches will be published, new airfield lighting with natural gas powered backup. There'll be LED. All the signage will be new. The painting, airfield markings will be new and updated. The new runway and taxiway pavements up. Going to eliminate the ability to go from the ramp directly out into the runway environment without making a turn. So you'll have to make two 90-degree turns either direction to access the runway, leaving the ramps. New visual landing aids, and we're actually putting PAPIs on all 4 runways, including 1.5. We don't talk much about the love 1.5 gets, but we're putting because it's not much because we never use it. Right now it's on a remote system that's not hardwired. So we're actually moving the lighting vault, co-locating it down there close to the tower. You know, when we put the electric in, just new home runs, everything LED. We're actually putting smaller regulators in because our electrical load is going to be lesser once we do it. So, Jeff, are you able to hit the next slide? Internet lag. Okay, technology is only as good as it's only good when it works. So the environmental benefits, and this is really more for the community, but this is real. And as we were designing this project, it became more obvious to me that not only is there going to be a significant improvement to our operation, but the surrounding environment, the entire community is going to be really improved. And I'll start with the demolition of the Talbot County Business Center, which is it is not an efficient building. You know, I know some in the public look at it and they're like, it's a shame we're losing that building. That building was built in the early 70s. There's nothing about it is modern or efficient and up to standards. A good month's electric bill in there is $20,000. You know, once if you fill it up with folks that are manufacturing, we've paid $100,000 a month electric bill. It's not good for anybody. It's not good for our wallets. It's not good for the environment. It's an old industrial building that's fallen down, and it's past its lifetime. So we're going to remove that, and we're going to pay for the removal of it, and we're going to clean that site up. So we're going to transition that 58-acre industrial site to a nicely landscaped green space that's going to appeal to the community. We've got some fantastic landscaping plans that we're working on. We're going to be planting hundreds of small trees and shrubs. Once we're done with the work there, when you're looking at that parcel from the Glebe Road Parkway area, it's going to be a beautiful parcel with a stream running through it and some trees and that meet the FAA standards, nicely landscaped. It's going to be a beautiful thing to look at versus looking at this 58 acres of concrete and asphalt right now. The business center is going to be recycled and reused to the extent possible. We're literally going to grind it up and reuse those items. The concrete's going to go into the sub base of the new airfield. Everything inside is going to be recycled, the steel, the aluminum. We're going to sell what we can sell and recycle the rest. So we're going to reuse that building. Unless it's truly waste, it's not going to go to the landfill. We're going to replace and improve drainage pipes throughout the airfield property, and that's going to actually improve the water flow from even recent development that's on the east side of the airport. So you think about the development that's happened in recent years that are east of 50, and all that stuff flows through. It's all connected. It's all flowing down to the headwaters of Glebe Creek. And now, once we make these improvements and put our new wetland mitigations in our swale system, it's going to be cleaner. It literally, as it passes through our 600 acres, it's going to be cleaner before it reaches the headwaters of Glebe Creek. Stormwater controls will remove the pollutants, protect the watershed. We're going to clean up the soil and waste that are at the former Black & Decker in accordance with our voluntary cleanup program. I mean, let's be very honest. It was an industrial site. There's heavy metals in the earth. There's things in the earth that shouldn't be there. We're going to clean that up, remediate it as we do this. We're going to install new wetlands, a swale system that's going to be essentially where that pond area is now is going to be replaced with a swale system that'll filter the water as it runs off. And we won't have standing water that attracts migrant waterfowl. We just had that festival this weekend. We're going to reduce the electricity usage here on the airport by about 30%. We're going to reduce the impervious surface by 13 acres. Anytime you can reduce impervious, it's a big deal. The new lighting vault and modern wiring is going to require smaller regulators. We'll be using less electricity. And then construction efficiency. We've planned our project to really minimize the use of county and state roads, thereby also reducing vehicle emissions, fuel usage, etc. So there's been a lot of thought put into how this program was designed. Our information campaign's been going all year. You can't drive through a gate at the airport without seeing that sign that Jeff made. We want to communicate with our community. We want to communicate with our neighbors and everybody in Talbot County that has an interest. So continue to spread the word. Folks can sign up for text messages. All of our meetings like this are open to the public. We try to use technology to the extent we can to get the word out, and anybody can log in and hear exactly what's going on out here. We want to answer questions. So please, the best place to send anybody is to our website. I know that sounds like everybody says that, but it really is. You go to our website, right there at the top, it says Airfield Modernization Program. You click on that, and the most up-to-date stuff is going to be there, including recording from this portion of the meeting. So everybody can go and hear exactly what's going on. There's a Q&A section at the end as well. So I'm going to pause right there and see if anybody has any questions before I go any further. I always joke, I think everybody's tired of hearing me talk about it. Does anybody online, anybody on the Zoom call have any questions? I really do believe that we've done a good job, very good job of communicating. And I also joke that if you don't know what's going on at the airport right now, you don't want to, because every time I get in front of a group of people, I give everybody the same spiel. So we care a lot. We want to be very open and transparent about the whole thing. I got 2 more slides that I'll talk about, and then I'll take a break. This is some of our air traffic operations data, and I don't have 23's numbers in here. It really doesn't take away from the slide though. This was just kind of like a 3-year comparison, like what is the post-COVID, how did COVID impact us and how have we bounced back? 2019 was about a 70,000 some operation year. COVID took us down to 60, almost 62,000. You can see 21 we came back, 22 we're down. 23 is going to end up slightly. We'll be in the 60s. So we're kind of on a plateau. We're really, we're not rising sharply. We're not declining. And if you look over the months, obviously good weather months in the middle of the year are still our busier months. May through September, the winters are our leaner months. Overall, I put some insights down there for you. Flight training is about 50% of our activity, roughly 33,000 operations a year, and that was at the end of 22, which is slightly lower than 21. The military flight training, about 20% of the VFR pattern. That's a 5% decrease, and that actually is down. And I say that because the helicopters bring a lot of attention, right? They bring a lot of attention, and they get the community calling out here asking what's going on more than anything else. They're low, they're loud, and they stay for an hour or so. But our military traffic is actually a bit on a decline right now. They're not here as much as they were a few years ago.
We have no control over that.
And we have no control over that. Thanks, Jack. That's a good point. The best way to describe that, I always tell people who fuss, I said, look, for one, it's the military. We are a federally obligated public use airport. We have agreed to be open to a reasonable amount of military training. That's part of them paying for 90% of the airport, quite frankly, is you have to allow the military to come in and do their flight training. And the other piece of it that I always say is it's like having Route 50 run through town. That tractor trailer is going to go through. You may not like seeing it, you may not like hearing it, but it's infrastructure and it's coming through. And that's the reality of those operations. The itinerant GA and military accounted for about 25,000 operations, or nearly 44% of the total. So this is generally how we can capture. That's not flight training, but the really the telling numbers, and this is what I like to focus on. This is our business numbers, right? Our business users. These are the taxis, the charters. These are aircraft with call signs that we know Scott's guys click these because they are air taxis. They're categorized. We know that these are here, that these guys are here for business. And the 3,740 flights in 22. That's the highest ever recorded. So 3,740 aircraft came in here under a charter operation in 2022. And by comparison, we averaged 10 charter style operations occurred daily here at Easton Airport. In 2011, that was 3. So we have tripled our business clientele in over a decade. The business users are the ones that are coming in. They're obviously the most valuable to us. They're the most valuable to, Tad and Michelle and our FBO operations. They're the ones that are, coming in and buying all the jet fuel and using all the services. So 3 times the amount of charter operations since 2011. And then the last thing I'll talk about a little bit is just our fuel operation and where it is. And these numbers are as of October, end of October. You can see at the top part there talking about Jet A. You can see the net changes for the 4 different FBOs. You can see in total, compared to the same period last year, we're down about 14% when it comes to jet. Avgas actually made a nice rebound so far this year. All of the FBOs are up 16% on avgas. When you compare total gallonage, we're down 11% compared to last year. But one thing I've started doing is, and I put our pre-pandemic average. I went and I took the 10 years prior to COVID, averaged them out, because really we're talking about 2 different scenarios. We have a pre-COVID world and we have a post-COVID world. And pre-COVID, we are running 72% above what an average year looked like. So I think that's good to keep in context when we say, oh, we're down 11%. And while certainly we need to watch that, Pre-COVID, we would be up 72. So, I mean, that's a big perspective to keep in mind. So, yeah, we're down a little compared to last year, but we're up a ton. And so I always bear this in mind when we're talking about the upcoming project and the impacts and some runway closures, because I always get the question, how will it impact fuel sales? How will it impact the operation? We have 7 months, roughly 7 months of closures that we're looking at in 2024. There will always be one runway open, but for about 6 months, quite possibly 6 months, runway 422 is going to be no TAM closed Monday through Friday. So yes, there will be some impacts. We're here being transparent about it. We're working with our partners to say, hey, we're trying to create windows where you can get out early Monday, you can come back on Friday, you can move your planes around on the weekend. So we're leaving windows to that we think to do business. But I think everybody also has to keep the end goal in mind that here in a few years we're working on a 6,400-foot runway that's fully usable, fully safe, and the most modern airfield that we've ever had. So we'll be able to operate nicely once we get there. So just some perspective on the fuel sales.
It's important for people to remember that those 3,500 business users are the people that support our businesses in the town and the county. They spend money here. It may be a business trip, it may be a holiday trip or something like that. But the airplane comes and leaves people off, so they're coming back in to pick people up.
That's a very good point. Exactly. I've been a study of transportation for 30 years, and I've always said thriving communities have one of three things. You have an airport, a seaport, or a rail system, right? If you don't have that, you're basically landlocked and not a thriving community. So 100 years ago, Easton had all three, right? We had barges coming up Easton Point. We had the railway coming through downtown. Now we're down to one. This is the conduit. This is how, folks from away, this airport is what opens the midshore region up to the greater world. This is how they get here. This is how commerce is done. This is where it flows through. So that's always a good reminder. Thank you, Rudy.